Hello and welcome to this evening's YouTube, where we're looking at how we can give feedback to learners using Google Classroom. I'm sorry I'm online a little bit later than I expected. I've been doing staff panto here at Braze High School, so I just had to get the glitter out of my hair. But I think we're all ready to go, and I'm really excited to talk to you about how I'm using Google Classroom and a couple of the other tools that are available that I haven't made a huge amount of use of, but I can certainly see how I could look to incorporate them in the future. We all know, though, that feedback is absolutely critical to a young person because it helps explain to them the certain grade or mark that they will have achieved, and it will give them a real clear understanding in terms of their work, so they can identify where they've done well and also use it as a method of kind of praising or rewarding that excellent work. We can also use the feedback to guide those improvement steps that we've identified for a young person, and they can look at what's been written or spoken to them, and they can take that feedback and build upon it. And I guess, we want to do that in a way that motivates them and helps them engage, because, ultimately, if they get good feedback, then they're going to be able to make changes to what they're doing. And we need to make sure, if we're, kind of providing this motivation for them to be able to act and change what they're doing, to be able to improve their learning and do the best that they can, that we provide real clarity in our success criteria. Because if our success criteria isn't clear or it's a bit woolly, then it's not going to make it easy for the young person to be able to make changes or understand what they need to do. So, for them to be able to monitor where they're at, they need to have a clear success criteria. For them to be able to evaluate and make changes to the work they've done, tweaks to improve it, then they're going to need clear success criteria. And it's just absolutely essential to helping them regulate their learning. So, as we provide that feedback, as I'm sure all teachers do, we want to make sure that we're giving it in a constructive, we want to make sure we're giving it in a timely manner, and just being as meaningful and as connected to them as we possibly can. So feedback is valuable. We know that, and there's lots of research out there that explains that. We need to make sure that they are receiving it in the right way at the right time. We need to make sure that they can understand that feedback, and we also need to make sure that they can act upon it and move it forwards. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk you through some of the bits that you can do, and some of the bits you can share with learners as well, which will help them be able to maximize the activity that they can from their feedback. So kicking off, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to bring that in. Okay, hopefully we've got the sound back, and we're going to try that again. Really sorry about that. So here we go. We've got ourselves in Google Classroom our to-do list. So this is in the learner view here, and I can see it's my demo learner account because I've just got my learner one up in the top right hand corner here. So what I'm going to do is show how that we can, and this is something I would recommend that teachers show their students, show their learners, in terms of being able to access and update their to-do list. So going into do here, it allows us to see all the information that a young person or that young person has in terms of work that's assigned for them. So you've got work by due date, you've got work that's due this week, next week. You can see where I've set that just as a little bit of humor, and also work that's due further ahead in the future. So of course feedback is really important, but managing workload and being able to ensure that young people act upon feedback and make changes is also really important. So one of the big things that I'm an advocate of is that we have people working, students and teachers working together in terms of taking the feedback in and then being able to manage what work's coming up and what they can go back to and make changes to. What's useful is you can filter down by class. So there's just one class in here, which is my new class. So just one option in that drop-down box, but obviously that would be filled with more if there were more classes. If we were missing any work, so that's work that's past the due date that hasn't been handed in, then you need to head to that missing section. Or if they've done work, then they can go back and they can see the work and see what marks they've got for their work as well. So that's a really useful place to be able to see work that's assigned, work that's been missing, and work that they have done. So I would absolutely encourage teachers to be telling their learners about the to-do section and using that to-do section. So that's just in main menu of Google Classroom to be able to go in there and identify work that's come in and make changes from there. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring you up the teacher's equivalent of that. So the teacher's equivalent of that is the to review section. So students obviously have work that they need to do, whereas teachers have a to review section. So if I go into my to review section, it gives me a really clear overview of all the work that's been assigned in a classroom. It also gives me the opportunity to go in and give feedback to pieces as well. So I use this as my dashboard to kind of dive into classes from. So once again, as a teacher, I have that filter option. I have the ability to go in and see who's handed what in, what's been assigned, what work has been returned or marked. And if it's got a score and I'm giving them a mark, then it goes back as marked. If it's work that doesn't have any kind of marks or anything associated to it, then you just return that. So what I'm going to do is go into my new class here. And you can see here I've got a demo essay set up, which I can go into. Before I start looking at how we would handle that essay feedback kind of with an individual learner, I'm going to pop on into this instructions section. And in this instructions section here, this is where I can give feedback and guidance, kind of if I'm front loading it to a class, and I want that information up front, I can do that in here. So quite often, if I set an assignment for the class and I load it up, that allows them to see what's coming. And I'll put in the description box, this is what we're going to work on in class, and especially with older children. And then when we discuss it, I quite often go back and add some additional instructions based upon what we've spoken about, or if kind of any issues or queries crop up through the class discussion, I clarify them in that instruction section. So that's a really good place to be able to give feedback and guidance on what we need to do. And then I display that on the board in the classroom so that people know what task they should be working on in the classroom. They can see the exact title and what the instructions are. So if they then go into their document, they've got that really big and really visually ready for them to be able to refer to. So if we then have a look here, and if we have a little look here and go into the actual assignment once it's been assigned, you can see here we've got this class comments. So class comments is fantastic if you want to create some kind of discussion, or you want to kind of have some idea on just providing some feedback, or wanting to be able to mention people in comments, then you can do that. So for example, I can go @ learner 1. What do you think about? And then I could ask them a question or something. And learners can also ask each other questions in that. So you can turn off the ability to comment if you want to. But I would suggest in a place of creating peer-to-peer feedback, somewhere that I can moderate it and I can see what the discussions of learning are about, I think class comments is really, really important. So I would strongly encourage that being left on, and I would strongly encourage people being explained to in terms of, you know, what's an appropriate comment to make in a public forum and what's not an appropriate comment. And if you think about, you know, whether you would want your comment to be permanently left as a record on the internet, then you need to be really thoughtful about that. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to jump in and look at the learner view then here. So I'm going to go into the class and go into the classwork page. And I can see here there's a little comment icon next to it. Going in, I can see here that I was tagged as the learner. That would also mean I would get an email as well. So as well as a notification on my iPad or my mobile phone. So that's useful as well if you've got people who are working not in the same room as you and you want them to definitely make sure that they're being notified of that comment, then you use that plus or @ symbol to be able to comment them in. Now, I spoke about going into the assignment here. So learners, as well as being able to make class comments and being able to kind of write their answers in there, what they can also do is make private comments as well. So private comments are really useful if you want to be able to, students to be able to ask questions, or you want to be able to give feedback directly to them. So they can write something in this private comments box, and they can post it. What I'll do is I'll take us back into the teacher view, and if I go into my student work section, so in the instruction section, you can see the hello of the public comment. If I go into the student work section, I can see here I've got Learner 1. If I click into Learner 1, I wonder if I need to refresh my page. Maybe we're just running a little bit behind. Yeah, so we can see here from underneath Learner 1, the private comment has appeared here, so I can see that comment has been made, and I get a preview of that. It's quite a short comment, so you can obviously see all of that, but I can then reply to the comment with anything that I wish to write there. So occasionally you might just need to refresh to make sure you're keeping up to date. So, you know, I'm encouraging people to leave the class comment section on, but of course, if people aren't able to use that sensibly, then switch that off and allow for private comments from learners to teachers to occur just like that. So, as well as being able to get feedback that way, you can also do it very quickly by going into, if you are a learner, I'll put up the learner screen just to be able to provide this demo. So I'm in the class, and you can see here I've got a demonstration question that I've been asked. So on the demonstration question page, so this has been assigned as a question to learners, and it's a question where they get to type their answer. I've got my class comment and my private comment section, but then I've also got the place where I would write my answer. So I would answer here and hand that in. So depending on the settings, you may or may not be able to see your classmates' answers as well, and they will all appear in the section there. And you have the ability as well to reply to your classmates' answers. Or you can reply to your own. So if you want to create some kind of discussion around a particular topic, then I'm really encouraging the people to use the question feature, and I'll show teachers how to set that up in a second. Get people to put their answers in the top right-hand your answer box, so it's not being put in as a comment, which means if you're a teacher, you have the ability to be able to mark answers and also mark the discussion that goes around those answers. Go into the classmates' answers section and start putting in comments like so. So I think all of that is a really nice place to start. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to head ourselves into the teacher view that we've got here. And I was just going to say, in terms of setting up those questions, you go into classwork, create, and you create question. So I'm suggesting you leave the question on short answer, that they can reply to each other, and you may wish for them to be able to edit it as well. And that allows a really nice space for you to be able to have class discussions and be able to provide feedback. And you can choose whether or not you wish to mark that by updating or changing the points value there. I'll discard that for now because I don't need it. I'm going to stay in here as a teacher, and you'll see here in my demo essay, if I go in, I have 10 essays assigned. So what I've done is I've set up an essay template, and each of the learners there has now got their own copy of that. So I'm going to go into I should pick Learner 1. I've clicked on Learner 4, so I'll let that load. And then from this drop-down box here, I can change it from Learner 4 to Learner 1, for example. So in Learner 1, I can see any private comments that have already been made. So that might be useful in terms of if I've given them some support, and I need to be able to remember that. And when I come in here, I've got certain options that I can do. Now, I'm quite fortunate. I've got a big screen here, which lets me see the menu on the left-hand side, the actual work in the center here, as well as comments and my ability to do marking on the other side. If you've got a smaller screen, sometimes this can all get a bit bunched up. So you can click this button here, which then opens it up in Google Docs. Now, by doing the work in Google Docs, you're marking in Google Docs, it does mean when you highlight anything, you do get two options. You get the option to add a comment or suggest edits. And I like both of those, and I will give you a demo of how both of those work. So if you want to be able to work on it kind of a bit bigger because you need to read a slightly longer essay or something, then I would certainly say pop it out into Docs. If you're just doing some quick marking, then doing it in the classroom mini Docs browser will be absolutely fine. So by default, when I'm working in this space here, you can see I've got it open now. That bit there is me having highlighted there you see. So you can see work being undertaken in real time, which is just brilliant. So for example, if I highlight here, I can add a comment and I can just put comment, just like so, and then I can hit that. I also have the option, if I want to highlight this, and let's say I've got another teacher in the class, or I want to make sure that they get a notification, an email to tell them about the comment, I can put at learner one. I'll change that to change this, and then I can, yeah, I'm happy with that, change this, and then I can tick the box to assign it to them so they know that's a task that they need to make changes to. Now you'll have seen when I was typing in my short comments there were some suggestions popping up for me. So if I highlight that bit of text there, press this comments button, I can use the hashtag key, and then I get an example, or I get a series of comments pop up. So I can just drop that in, develop that point, put a comment in here, hashtag, I like that idea, comment there, highlight that bit there, comment, hashtag, need a bit more detail, there you go. So quite quickly, I'm dropping in comments as I go. And these comments are comments that I've got from my comment bank. So add this to the comment bank. So if I press that there, comment. So you can see that I've written that comment, but actually I might want to use that again. So if I press this more options here, I can add to the comment bank and hit add. And I'll show you where the comment bank is in a minute so you can add more to it. But that comment feature I think is really useful. Sometimes if I've written a comment and I'm really keen for a learner to see it, I'll click this link to this comment button. I will then copy that by pressing Control-C on my keyboard. This is a comment for learner one, and I will just stick it in the chat there and send it to them as a message as well. So they'll then be able to click on that link and it will take them straight to the comment that I've linked to, which is really useful. I could also link that comment. I could have dropped it in that box there as well. Or I could have sent it to them in email, or I could have shared it with them through another platform if I was working in that, but using Google Docs. Okay, so I've just kind of shown you how quick it is to drop feedback in and highlighting. If I see something where I want to make changes, I can highlight the text here. Let's say I think that shouldn't be there. By default, you are in suggesting mode when you're looking at a Google Doc through Google Classroom. If I don't want to be in suggesting mode, then I can change it to edit mode, and edit mode will take out text for me and leave no trace that I've done that, apart from in the revision history, so they will be able to see that it's been removed and always restore it if they want. But this way, by being in suggesting mode, which is a mode I really like, it gives you the option to be able to make changes, and then they can accept or reject the suggestion, which is really powerful in terms of taking, making tweaks and on a young person's work, but then being able to see what you've suggested and then going in and deciding whether or not they want to accept or reject that. Okay, so I'm going to have a look here into the comment bank. So this is the comment bank that I've been setting up. And I've just got a question here from Rachel. Thanks for joining us this evening, Rachel. Very welcome. Is there any way to keep editing suggestion? Often children will go back and resolve. I'm not quite sure I understand the question. Is there any way to keep editing suggestions? So obviously in your revision history, you'll be able to see all the edits that have been suggested and the edits that were made or rejected. And I guess it's about talking to children and really suggesting to them that if they're resolving them, then they should only be resolving or accepting the suggestions when they have actually made the changes or read that feedback. So that's so important. But if I've misunderstood that, then drop another comment in the chat. Very welcome. So here with the comment bank, this is where I have the ability to be able to copy comments to the clipboard. I have the ability to go and edit them, or I can click the add button up here to add extra comments. And you'll find over time, as you kind of tweak comments and develop more and more, the comment bank gets quite full, which is why it's really useful to be able to hit the highlight button, highlight what you want using your mouse or your finger on your touch screen, and then hit the hashtag, and all the comments that you have in your comment bank will pop up. The most used ones appear at the top. And what you can do is you can then select the one you want to use and just drop it in like so. Comment bank has been a really big time saver for me, and I think that's really useful. If I open up the learner document very briefly, so if we just go in there, oops, just wanted to go into the class and go into the demo essay, we can see it's up here. At the moment, they can see all the documents and all the comments, and they can make changes, and I can see where the teachers' accounts are highlighting and working on it live. So that's quite useful if you want to kind of make that live interaction and just drop in on a young person's work as they're working. But if I press this hand in button here, and I'll close that and then reopen it, you'll see here they can't see any of the marking. They can just see that you are active on the document, but they can't see any of the comments while it's handed in. So that's quite useful in terms of, sometimes when we're marking work, we write some feedback, but we're not sure if we're completely happy with how that's worded or whether we've quite got everything how we want it to do. So we can not allow them to see any of those changes. But if I close that now and just minimize this and continue marking until I'm happy with it. If I look here at my student work, I can see here that learner 1 has got it handed in. So if I give it a mark, it will go back to them as marked. If I just return it like so, and then open back up the student work and they go in, you'll be able to see that they can see the comments. So they can make changes. Oh yes, I can see I've had some changes suggested here, so I'll accept that. Yeah, I've resolved this, I've resolved that. So comments that have been made that are resolved, you can see all the comments, whether they're live or resolved comments, in the comment history using this button up here. So that's quite useful in terms of wanting to look back. So you can't delete comments, they're always there, so it's worth being able to kind of go back and see comments that have been made if you're not sure that it's it's been updated or done as you've asked. Then if they hand in again, they can press turn in. Yes, I want to hand that in. So this is from the learner view. So learner's handed it in again, and in a few moments it updates here. And this time, if I give them a score for it and return it to them, then when I load it up, they will be able to see the feedback in terms of they'll be able to see the mark that they've got. Just give this page a little refresh. Oh, don't want to hand it in. Don't want to hand it in again. You can see here the mark is there, and they have the ability to make changes and resubmit it if they wish, but otherwise it is done. So sometimes I know that some young people can get quite keen, and when they've received their mark back, they might make changes and resubmit it, or they might just press the resubmit button again. That's just kind of an education issue there in terms of making sure they understand once it's been submitted and they've got it back with a mark, you're happy with it and you don't need to resubmit it again. That's just explaining to a young person about what those buttons are. So we've looked at how we can link to particular comments, we've looked at using the comments bank, and we've looked at how we can tag particular individuals. So for example, if you had group work, you could make people comment each other's work or provide feedback. And I think that's a really nice way of doing that. But just remember, if they've handed it in, you must return it to them if you want them to be able to see the work. So Rachel here is just talking about how she's used the comment history to be able to utilize assessing the progression that's being made by a learner. And I think that's a really lovely example in terms of how you can make good use of the comments. So big shout out to you there. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to move on from comments and docs, but of course you can do the commenting and the marking and the giving of feedback in Google Slides on PDFs that they upload, and also on Google Drawings. And I did a video earlier this week on Google Drawings in terms of how you can do comments on particular things in there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a little look at rubrics. So I'm going to go back into my class here and look in my classworks page, and hopefully I have an assignment that I've already marked, and it's already got a rubric set up. So I'm going to just go in here and show you the rubrics. So this rubrics has three different criteria. I'm looking at creativity, I'm looking at design, and I'm looking at technical knowledge. And I've got different points depending on how well they've done. And I've also got different points for different sections. So I'm weighting here technical knowledge slightly greater than design and creativity. So you can build up quite complex rubrics, and you can use it to automatically score for you. And you've got full control over the points as well. So that's what a rubrics looks like. In terms of for the learners, if we view the assignment, you can see here, oh, I'm on the learner's account, that's why. So we can see here that they got 14 out of 16, they got 8 out of 8 on the technical knowledge, they got 4 points for design, but only 2 points, giving them an overall score of 87.5, and that's because the mark is out of 100, and then it just gets scaled up as a percentage from the 14 out of 16. So it does all the maths and all the calculations for you, which is really useful. So let's go in and look at that in the teacher view, and my new class into this, and we've got the rubrics here. Fantastic. So I've got 10 here that have been marked, and you can see I've got a range of weightings. So if I click into each learner, you can see you get some. This one got 100, so they're all on the left-hand side. This learner didn't get anything, so it's slightly further over to the right-hand side, and you can see as you can hover over, you can actually click in there and make changes. So if I made a mistake with my marking, then that's really easy. So I also set up assignments and don't get young people to submit anything if they've done it on paper or it's something that they've done in class. And I can set this up and I can go in and mark them. And the good thing about marking everything through Google Classroom, whether it's paper-based, a presentation, or something that is digital, is then it is automatically populating my marks page, which allows me to get a nice overview of learner progress and what they're doing. You can see learner 1, who I'm working with here, has got plenty of data against that name. So let's have a look at how we get these rubrics set up then. So I'm going to go into classwork, I'm going to press create, and I'm going to create myself an assignment. So this demo assignment is going to need a rubrics attached to it. Until the title is in and registered, the rubrics button hasn't come alive. It now knows that it's definitely going to be an assignment, so I can go into here and I can create the rubric. So you can decide whether or not you want scoring. So if you just want it to be feedback only with no numbers, then you can turn the scoring off. If you want scoring with numbers, then you can do that too. So I'm just going to call this demo, and then you can decide how many levels you have in your rubric as well. So I reckon 4 or 5 is a pretty ideal number. Maybe 2 or 3 if you want to keep it super simple, or if you've got quite a complex assessment, then you might look at having slightly more. But it's about a case of finding something that works for you. So I'm going to give 10 points here and 0 points down here, and then you can go in and you can describe it. Excellent. No work submitted. We've got lots of options there in terms of being able to add additional bits. If I've added a level by mistake, I can go and use this more button to delete it. If I've added this criteria by mistake, I can go in and delete this criteria. I've only got 1 criterion. You need at least 1 criteria, so I can't do that. But if I duplicate this criteria and go into the more button, you can see here that I've now got the option to be able to delete it. And I can also move criteria up and down, so you can decide what criteria is most important. And as I've said before, you can have different points value for different criteria. So now this demo 1 is worth 5 points, and my first demo section is worth 10 points. So you can go in and change all of that as well. My more button up here is if I've made a rubrics and I'm really not happy with it, I can absolutely go in and then delete the whole thing if I wish. but let's get that saved for now. And you can see there, I've got my rubrics and it's worth 15 points. I've said the whole assignment is worth 100 points, but I could go in and change that to 15 points if I wanted to, or I could change it to 30 points or 150, and it would automatically calculate or scale the rubrics values to the points values for me. So that's really, really useful. Okay, so I'm just going to assign that there. If we've got a rubrics that we've created and we want to be able to reuse it, so let's say I go into this rubrics here. I have got the option to be able to go in and edit it before, you know, if I want to tweak it for any particular reason. And I've also got the option to be able to export it. So exporting it sends it to a Google Sheet, and then you can reuse the rubrics. And my understanding is there's pretty good, they work pretty well, whether it's Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams, same format, same setup. So you can load in, import and export across multiple platforms. But what we're going to do here is take this rubrics that has been created, and if I just close out of that and create myself another quick demo assignment, I can go in here and use the rubrics option, and I can import from Sheets. So if I've got a CSV file or a Google Sheets that I've uploaded or downloaded from a friend's Google Classroom or a Microsoft Team, then I can access this here, or I can reuse a rubrics that I've used before, and this gives me the rubrics across all my classes, and I can filter down by class if I want to by going into the select rubric option, and then I can go in and pick up a rubrics that I've created before and select it and drop that in. So, you know, that's really useful if I want to have rubrics across different platforms. It's also useful if I want to be able to reuse rubrics that I've created before, and that's good. And then once it's assigned, I've shown you how you can go in and you can mark it nice and easily. So I've got 10 assigned, and as soon as you've assigned it, you do have the ability to start marking whether they've handed it in or not, just by clicking away there, and then next learner. So it can be quite a speedy way of marking. And obviously, if you're on a touch device, it's quite nice just going through and tapping away the different scores. So this just allows you to make your digital mark book really, really accessible. And then I can return those to those learners with a comment, with some feedback, which is obviously really important to put the written feedback in there. Okay, the last thing that I'm going to show you, because now we've got into rubrics and feel comfortable that we can use those, is if we go into our class and up to our settings section, we have the option to be able to do some marking. So if you want to be able to calculate an overall mark, and the overall mark is accessible in the marks page, so this is running along the top here, the overall mark, and when we go into individual learners, we'll also be able to access an overall mark there. If we want to tweak that, we can go into the settings and we can look at our overall mark calculation. So it might be that we're using Google Classroom for everything across a year, and we're not going to have any overall marks set up at all. So they won't see their overall marks. It might be that I'm assigning a overall mark, and I can turn that on and off by just looking at the total points that they have had been awarded across a year. So I think if we go into people into the marks page, we can now see the overall mark here because it's been switched on for them to be able to see it. So the class average, 68%, and then I've got all the marks running down there. And that's fine if everything is weighted the same, but I know that some things can be weighted differently depending on their importance, say for SQA exams. So I can change my total points to be weighted by category. I can show that mark to the student still, and I can say, right, everything I mark is either going to be practical work or theory work, and I can say practical is worth 60%, theory work is worth 40%. I'll get that saved for now. And then what we can do is we can go into our assignments, and I'm going to go in and edit a couple of my assignments. You'll see here I've got a mark category, and I can assign things to be practical or theory. So let's just pick something else to give that. So that's got quite a few things there. So we can go in and we can edit that and we can make that really fantastic. So what would be quite time consuming is going through and individually calculating what different weightings were, but you can now see it tells me this is a practical piece, this is a theory piece, and we know we've weighted practical for 60% of the marks, theory for 40% of the marks, and that will be reflected, that weighting will be reflected in the overall mark that young people can access and see in that overall mark column. So if you're using your Google Classroom just for, say, a particular unit of work or a particular course, then I think that's a nice way of being able to go in and make use of the weighted by category section. So I think there's lots of opportunities there to be able to really experiment and really play with it, but it's it's completely up to you to kind of find the way that's going to work for you. So what we're going to look at now in terms of having all of our marks, our weighted categories, our rubrics, our comments, our docs, all of that is set up. I think there is certainly lots of other ways that you can give feedback and provide feedback to learners. So for example, you might be able to use extensions that allow you to import or embed video or voice feedback, which might be more engaging, or it might be more kind of accurate for them to be able to use, or you might want to use Google Forms with their quizzes and their automatic feedback section built in there. And there's also the opportunity for teachers to go in and give feedback on that as well, or through Google Sites using an e-portfolio approach and getting learners to provide peer feedback or teacher feedback within those sections. So there's lots of different options there. Well worth kind of diving in and having a look at those. But I would say in terms of an introduction to Google Classroom and the opportunities it has to be able to give feedback, there's certainly lots in there in terms of being able to look at the comments features, both the private answers as well as the class comments. There's lots of options making use of the instruction section, going into docs and being able to make changes there. Or slides and using the comment features, the comment bank, rubrics for scoring, and then if you want to look at your overall marking, then there's lots of opportunities, especially with that ability to be able to do the weighted category mark. Thank you very much for everyone who managed to tune in. Thank you, Alex, for coming and watching. Your support is very much appreciated. I know it's the last Thursday before Christmas. This time next week we will be on Christmas Eve. Shortly awaiting Santa's arrival. So I know lots of people have lots of things to do, and I know we kicked off a little later, which might have thrown a few people out with timings and things. So if you've managed to watch this live, thank you so much. If you're catching up on demand and you're still watching, that's great. There's been other YouTube videos in this series in the run-up before Christmas, looking at making use of Google Classroom as well as Google Drawings, and getting started with Google Sites and Jamboard too. So please go and check those videos out. Of course, if you've enjoyed the video and it's helped you out, a little like and a subscribe is always appreciated. And thank you very much for watching. I think this will be my last YouTube video before Christmas. So have a very good Christmas and a happy New Year. And I look forward to seeing what we can learn together in the new year. Thank you very much. Goodbye.